Well, hello again, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Beauty for Ashes, where I am giving you real stories about real hope and real redemption. These are all testimonies based off of the things that God has done for me personally in my life. And there's the one thing that can never be taken away from a person, and that is the witness of their testimony. The things that God has done for me, without a natural doubt, no one can take away what he's actually done and witnessed for me. So with that being said, I do also want to give my quick disclaimer that everything that I am saying, everything that I share is based solely on my life, my personal experiences, things that I have personally encountered, natural and supernatural, that God has done for me in my life. That does not mean that you are required to believe or have faith in God. But that also doesn't take away from my personal testimony. So whoever this is meant to reach, I pray that it reaches you in the timing that it is meant to reach you, in Jesus' name. So with that being said, I wanted to go ahead and just dive into the next story. Oh, and I am Juanita Jones. For those of you who don't know me, I welcome you to please go back and look at some of the other prior episodes, particularly when it comes to this one. This is going to be part 3 of episode 6 called Dangling Carrots. Please forgive me if it seems like I'm a little bit dry throat or if I'm stumbling a little bit over my words. I am definitely just now, at the time of this video, getting over some symptoms. So it's a little bit difficult for me to talk consistently without my mouth drying out. So please forgive me if you see me pick up my water, okay? So thank you for bearing with me and for giving me some grace. But I do want to go ahead and just dive into the story, because this one is going to pretty much wrap up into a nice cute bow about how business ventures, relationships, things of that nature that you feel like are meant for you. You've been asking God to intervene. You've been praying for it. You've been believing for it. You've been doing your manifestations, your affirmations, and all of those things, because all of us have dreams and visions and goals. Most of us, put it that way, most of us have those things. We desire more. We long for more. And truthfully, that's just something that the average human just has embedded in them. We just want better. We want more. Even if it's not for us, it's for the people coming behind us, our kids, our grandchildren, whoever it is that matters to us. So I have always been a go-getter. From the very beginning, from a little girl, I've always been a go-getter. I've always known that I was created and designed for more, for greatness. So when I left corporate America in 2016, I went over the story in the last episode about how I took a massive leap of faith. I left my job of many years as a sales executive, making extremely good money. And I decided to pursue Edible Blessings, which was my bakery company, full speed ahead. I had a bad business deal that went completely left. And that was in the prior episode. And where I am picking up from now is not only was that one of the biggest disappointments of me going through the process of entrepreneurship, but there were several other instances that I'm sharing with you now, because I am still technically sitting, but because I am still standing, I know that God always has a way, and it's always a reason. It's always going to be a purpose behind setbacks, setups, disappointments, heartache, resentment, doors closed, opportunities that you thought were hands down from God. And it looks like the door just shut in your face. And I am a praying woman. I have very great discernment. I understand when something is not from God, and I know when something is. And when I have a supernatural peace, that it's okay for me to go forward. So I wanted to say that initially, because there were many instances when I did stuff that I know I didn't have peace to do and I had no business doing, but I did it anyway because I was just trying to force a square peg into a round hole. And there were instances where I know for a fact that God gave me the go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. He gave me the green light to do it. However, they didn't quite pan out the way that I thought or expected. And, I have to remind myself, even now, sometimes when God gives you a go ahead to do something, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to come out to be the outcome that you expected. He very well might have you go through the process of something for the sake of building character. It could be to grow you up in some areas that you thought you were mature in. Bottom line is, it might not be exactly what you thought it was going to be. I thought that I was going to be entering into a lot of these business ventures because of the bottom line, because it was going to be lucrative. It was going to set me up for life. It was going to do this. It was going to do that. When all along, God had other plans in mind. There were other things in motion that I just had no idea what they were for. And also, again, because I am in a protector series, this is my protector series talking about how he protects you from things known and unknown. In hindsight, I fully see everything that he was protecting me from during these next instances. So instance number one, I had got, when I was initially coming out of Edible Blessings, I, utilized a lot of my own savings, my own capital, of course, because coming out of the woodworks as a brand new entrepreneur, full-time entrepreneur, I had been doing Edible Blessings for many years, but this was my first time stepping out on faith and doing it full-time. Well, full-time means full-time money. That means income that I was getting from my paychecks was no longer going towards me being able to invest into my business. Now I had to go gung-ho into the sales portion, marketing myself, branding myself, putting myself out there, being involved in events and things of that nature. That meant that every dollar that was coming into my business from that point forward was going to have to come from sheer hustle and from the favor and grace of God. That's where it had to come from. That's why entrepreneurship, for those of you who don't know, is the toughest thing you could possibly do. It's not built for everyone, and everyone is not built for it. There is nothing wrong with having a 9-to-5 if that's what you want to do or if that's what you need to do. However, for those that were called into business ownership, serial entrepreneurship, or things that require a leadership role. And a leadership role means you are wearing everything. You're the accountant, you're the brander, you're the marketer, you are the researcher, you're the financial backer. You're the person that's doing everything. There is no more HR to go to. You are HR. There was so many things that I learned that I took away from corporate and I embedded into my own businesses. But there were also some expectations that I unrealistically put on myself. I know for a fact that God was protecting me. So with this first instance, coming straight out of Edible Blessings, I needed some assistance financially, and a family member actually volunteered to assist me financially with getting my business off the ground. All I needed to produce, because they knew that if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I dot every I cross every T. That's just how I've always operated. I have never been a flaky person. I'm sorry, this twist is plucking my nerves. So I've never been a flaky person. I've always been straightforward. If I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. I will always be a person of my word. And if for some reason I can't, then I will be sure to communicate that and a reason why or when I can. So this person that was presenting to me the opportunity to invest into my business is somebody I wholeheartedly trust. I know for a fact, I felt like for a fact that they were going to do what they said. And it was somebody that I easily felt comfortable with accepting, a monetary gift from. And actually it wasn't a gift, technically. It was going to be an investment. So long story short, I went through the process of doing my business plan. I even hired a professional to assist me with making sure that my projections were accurate, that I had a fair ROI. I'm sorry for the jargon. ROI, for those of you that don't know what that means, it is a return on investment. So I was making sure that whoever was the person that was investing into my business, that they would be guaranteed to get a specific amount back and then some, because I just wanted to make sure that they were honored and that it would be fair across the board for both me and them. I went through everything under the sun to make sure that all of my I's were dotted and my T's were crossed before presenting it to this person that stated that they would be investing. This took a few months because this isn't something that I just decided, well, let me just write up something real quick. No, I did my homework. I did my homework on my industry. And then when it was finally all said and done, I presented it to the person, and then they turned around and they reneged on the offer. Not for any other reason than they just didn't feel they just didn't want to do it anymore. That they had other obligations going on, whoop-de-whoop, et cetera, things of that nature. Well, me being fresh coming out of corporate America, giving up a full-time job, I did it off of an act of faith because I was led to do it. I know without a shadow of a doubt, I made the right call. So this was one of the first things that was brought to me. And of course, naturally, I was excited about it. And this happened to be, if you watch episode 6, part 2, this happened right before that episode. So you're talking about, I was already dealing with something, and then for this to turn around and happen. I think I might have said that a little backwards. This happened right after that. My apologies. So anyway, I was already coming off the cusp of a huge disappointment for this to be presented to me. So I felt like, oh, wow, there's some light at the end of the tunnel. The sun has shined again. Here's my chance. Only for the person to back out at the very last minute after I invested money. Once again, my time, my resources were invested because this person said they were more than willing to back me up, and it did not happen. I was beyond defeated at that point because that's now the second time that I was proposed to. Now, keep in mind, I did not seek these people out. They came to me. So I'm thinking, okay, wonderful. Only to be disappointed again for the second time. And there were little minute things that happened in between also that were disappointing, but there were also some very big highlights. That was the second disappointment that I had to deal with. The third one comes along. Now, at that point, I just had a fresh wound from dealing with the initial investor. That was barely healed over. Then a few months go by, I get this presented to me. And then I do the work again, still a little hesitant now. Follow me with this. A little skeptical. Radar is up a little bit more with this one. But I trust this person. I know this person. And I said, okay, I feel okay about going forward and doing what I need to do to present it, to make it palatable for them to feel confident and comfortable knowing that their money is going into good ground. It was good seed. Only to be disappointed. So now I got a scar that was just ripped back open, and now I got another wound next to it. That was 2. About a year later, now I'm done with the deal. I don't want to hear nothing about a deal. I don't want to hear nothing about you interested in investing in my business. And I had been presented with that probably 2 more times after these 2, okay? It was about a year or so after disappointment number 2 that I got presented with what I thought was going to be the deal of a lifetime. This was with a major food chain, very popular food chain. And they had did a public call asking for people that did desserts, treats, things of that nature to shoot your shot, so to say. If there's a product or a service that you could offer us, we are looking for something big. We're looking for something new. We would love to partner with a small business to give you an opportunity for your name, your brand to be known. I figured, absolutely. Initially, of course, fear is going to kick in. And then, I was thinking, well, no, my business is a little bit too small for that. I think that's a little intimidating. And then I thought about it. Well, why not me? They're going to pick somebody, right? So I figured I might as well shoot my shot. What is the option other than they just say no? I already have a no if I don't try. I went ahead and decided to go for it. So I found out the concept of what they were looking for, what they wanted to do with the business that they were operating, and what I could potentially bring to the table. I was one of over 1,000, I want to say, applicants, as well as somebody that was selected to pitch what I had to offer, not just on paper, but to actually bring and present product. So I did that. I drove to I'm being very, very careful to be discreet as to who this was, because they're very well known. The company is very well known, but I don't want to, for the sake of defamation. It's not defamation, actually. I'm just being careful just to maintain some privacy. Okay. So I drove to the state to where they were located. Their headquarters was located. I had fresh products ready to go. I'm not that far from this other state. So I drove to this state, to the headquarters. And keep in mind, I am already a business owner. I'm business minded. I've been a business mentor for many years, also helping other people get their businesses off the ground. So I know what excellence looks like when it comes to doing business transactions. I'm not perfect by a long shot, but I know how to present quality. And I am excellent at doing that. And I thank God for that gift. I had a presentation in place. I had potential numbers in place. There was nothing that they had to guess on. There was no question that they probably had for me that I wasn't able to answer. Maybe one or two, simply because I wasn't quite sure on their logistical requirements. But other than that, everything else I had written down. I got to the location, got the headquarters, did the presentation, met with the owner, met with her their team, and I wasn't gone from the location maybe 30 minutes before I got a call back from the CEO asking me further questions and to provide more information. They were thoroughly impressed. I happened to be, out of all those people, I think I was maybe the fifth person out of they had hundreds of samples. They had invited several people to come and do presentations, but I was like one of maybe 5 or 10. I can't remember. It's been a few years that actually had numbers. I had, a screenshot of what it would look like. I had different flavors, not just the fun part, but I had the business part. And they were thoroughly impressed with the presentation because I was all about business. Yes, and they loved the product, by the way. I had 5 different samples of different types of product that they could have potentially used that met the basically the criteria of that type of business. It would fit right into their family, so to say. I did my homework. Only to, and you're talking about, I did driving back and forth 2, 3, 4 times, met with them, had the emails, had phone calls, did all of that, only for them to go with somebody that was a celebrity that didn't really last very long with what they were trying to do. Now, was there some disappointment in that? Yeah, because I saw a much bigger picture. I just knew, I said, oh my goodness, this is huge. So at that time also, I did not mention, I started having some health issues. Not major, not serious, but enough to grab my attention. Because baking required me standing on my feet 10, 12, 14, and 15 hours. And people thought I was exaggerating when I was saying that. No, I was up at 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning starting the day to make sure that all of my product was fresh for that day and for the following day. And I was doing that up until 11 and 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, every day, like clockwork. So yeah, there were 15, 16-hour days because people kept saying, no, that's not possible. Yeah, it was. And I did it for years. So that's just what I did, because quality and excellence was number one, on top of having amazing customer service. So they loved all of that. But the problem was, because I was smaller, it was easier for them to go with the person they went with because they already had logistics in place. That's kind of what it boiled down to. But I also knew that I was having some health issues, and my body would not have been able to sustain the magnitude, the volume that they would have required across all of their locations. And I was already at that point thinking about an exit strategy to get out of the business because I was tired. The third and no, that was the third one. So the fourth one, right after that, a couple of months after that, once again, I had people coming to me. That was a local business. It was a couple that was interested in partnering with me so that we could collaborate both of our brands. And we came up with like a mega brand, something that we had planned out that within 5 years we would be able to sell off. And it was going to be a very lucrative deal for both me and for them. Went through, okay, now at this point, my walls are up. My radars are up. I'm seeing red flags, yellow flags, purple flags, green flags. No, not green. Well, a few green flags, but you get the gist. I had a very hard time with believing anything that came out of anybody's mouth at that point, because I had been through so much heartache and disappointment. And I'm not even getting across the stuff that I was dealing with outside of that, with the business, with other things that I was personally encountering and personally was invested in that were doing great, but I was still having some hiccups. So it was just a very frustrating time in my life to be constantly dealing with consistent, what felt like perpetual disappointment. Just one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other. So bad to the point to where when this couple approached me, I went ahead and just spilled the beans with them and told them, hey, listen, I've already had this person approach me, went through this, and this is what happened. I already had this person approach me, promised me this, and they reneged on that. So when I approached them, I was crystal clear. I can't deal with another disappointment right now. And I made it very clear that I had no intentions in continuing with physically baking past a 5-year mark, because at that point I was exhausted. And truth be told, I know I was being bona fide. I wasn't being disrespectful to the Lord, but I was being disobedient. He had already let me know the writing was on the wall. My time was up with it. I did everything with it at the moment that he wanted me to do. And I'm sorry if this is going a little bit long, but I'm sure it's trying to wrap this up, as I really don't want to go into a part 4. So I meet with this couple. We go through, the projections. We had meeting after meeting after meeting, emails, phone calls, setting up my time, using my gas, going to meet. Only a year in, once again, to find out that we weren't going through with the deal after all, because it turned out that with their business, there was some shady stuff going on with the deal that they had with the initial person that they purchased their business from. And it was just basically downhill from there. I threw my hands up. I said, Lord, I don't know what you're trying to tell me, but I flat out surrender. I am so over this being disappointed and the heartaches and the discouragement. And I had got to the point to where I was becoming disgruntled and indifferent. And even my faith was wavering. I am honest enough to say, as good as God has been to me, and I can testify on a daily basis, every day that I wake up is a testament of God's goodness. But when you're in the middle of constantly being disappointed over and over and over again, it's very easy to forget the things that God has already brought you through and that he's never failed. But when you're in the middle of constantly being disappointed, it's hard to see the roses from the thorns. So that was the last straw for me. And there were so many good things that happened in the middle of me being in Edible Blessings, operating that business. I've been blessed beyond measure, so much more than I expected. I did way more than I imagined, but it definitely didn't go remotely as far as in my mind I thought it was going to go. But I come back to finally say, to wrap this up, and I know I'm leaving a ton of stuff out, and if God leads me to do a part 4 later, then I will. But I say all this to say, through all the disappointments that I went through, the protection that God was giving me was because my season with the company was done with Edible Blessings. I was out of corporate from 2016. I officially, quote unquote, retired from Edible Blessings in December of 2024. When all of that was said and done, that was the last straw for me. So I was done in 2024. I sold off everything. I was trying to get my body back right. It literally was sucking the sheer life out of me. That's how bad it had gotten. And I didn't leave with bitterness. I left a little bit disappointed. But as some time progressed, after I closed down the business and I moved on to other things, other ventures, God reminded me and showed me why he was doing what he did, why those things did not happen. The business deal that could have gone through with the family member that had made the promise to me to invest in my business, who knows what would have transpired with that? We very well could have had a big fallout if something didn't happen the way it was supposed to happen. And I would have ended up owing this person a substantial amount of money. Maybe God saw that it just was best for us to remain as family and to not put business in the middle of it. So it possibly was protecting my relationship with that person. As far as the venture goes with the major company, I know without a shadow of a doubt, it would have been extremely difficult for me to keep up with supply and demand. And that deal also could have very well went sour and would have left me high and dry. Financially, it could have put me in a big pickle. There's no telling what would have transpired with that. So I am grateful that even though it wasn't a bitter ending to it, it didn't turn out the way I thought it would, but it also still worked out for my good because God already saw, baby girl, I know it sounds great, but you have already had conversations with me in our prayer time together that you're tired and this is going to wear you all the way down. So that was a pass. The same thing I could say honestly would have transpired with the couple that had come to me asking to collaborate, because the original deal for us was to do a 5-year collaboration before we sold the company off. I know for a fact I wouldn't have lasted 5 years baking anything, and I made that clear, but it was like we were on different pages. And then for everything to transpire with their business the way it did, and for the bottom just to fall out of our deal, that was, again, God's protection and his covering. So for all of you entrepreneurs out there that are right now feeling busted, disgusted, discouraged, upset, irritated, demeaned, belittled, unseen, know that God still has a plan for you. Just because it is not necessarily happening the way you expected it in your plan to happen does not mean that there isn't a reason for what is transpiring or has happened to you. Please believe God will use every bit of it, and it will always work out for your good. Everything that I've learned through that process has done nothing but built me up bigger, badder. Boy, I'm a bad mamma jamma now when it comes to business. I'm much stronger. I'm wealthier mentally, emotionally, and even, thank God, I have not missed a beat financially, and we're only getting better, me and my family. I thank God for his goodness and his grace. I can't stress that enough. What the enemy means for evil, God will always turn it for your good. I absolutely eat, sleep, and breathe Romans 8:28, which states that all things will work together for the good of them that love the Lord. Now, I am paraphrasing, but it is so true. Whatever God has for you is going to be for you, even if it doesn't necessarily come in the package that you thought it would come in. So I pray that episode 6, part 1, 2, and 3 is a blessing to you, and that you take some nuggets from it in whatever it is that you're dealing with in life. You can take everything that I've gone through, even though I'm talking about it from the business aspect, it transfers over to any aspect of your life. And I pray that it has truly been a blessing to you. So I'm going to say a quick prayer. I know I've ran over a little bit of my typical time, but I just really wanted to get this out so I wouldn't have to do a part 4. And if I'm led to do one later, I will. But let me just say a quick prayer over you. Father, in the name of Jesus, Lord, I thank you for your protection again. Thank you for your covering. Thank you for those things that you have kept us from, seen and unseen, Jesus. Lord, there were so many times when I was so doubtful and discouraged because things did not pan out the way that I thought they should have panned out. But I know that your plan, just as Jeremiah 29 verse 11 states, your plan and your purpose will always work out. You have a future and a hope for us, Lord. And there is nothing and no one on this earth that can change that. Even though it don't look the way we wanted to look, I thank you and I trust you for your plan to work out for my good. Lord, I thank you and give you praise, honor, and glory. Thank you for every person that is watching this and for the many people that it will be a blessing to. In Jesus' name, I thank you, Father. Amen. Thank you so much for being with me, for hanging with me. It's been a rough one for me to try to record because of my voice acting crazy, but I made it through, guys. Please stay tuned for episode 7 next week, which is going to be a whole nother topic. And I pray that God blesses you. If you feel like liking, subscribing, following, sharing, whatever it is that you would love to do to help this channel out so that it can reach other people, I would truly appreciate it. I know that the person that is meant to reach would appreciate it as well. So God bless you all. Love you. Bye.